Hello everyone. The previous video we have focused on the introduction part of our course, as well as we have reviewed some points about loops and array. So in this video we are going to go a little bit more on the review on function and pointer bar. And we have also file, but I'm gonna not gonna review on that. We don't have much time. You can take review later on your previous document in the previous term. So here back to the function. Okay, so what is function and how do we create a function? Function is used to do some certain tasks. We can just give it a name, and then we can call it many times inside the main function. Yes. It's just the way how we group our code into different names. We can give it a name, put some certain codes inside it, then we can call the name to execute those code. Okay, so it make your program more simple and also reusable code. Yes, because we can call to the function again and again many times. So I'm going to open the tools, which is code block. You can run the tool if you install any other programs that you prefer. So we create a new file and then we test a function here. Okay, .c. This is review in C language. So in here, we need to include the structure of C programming. We have the header library, which is standard input/output. We have the main function. Yes. Okay, so to create a function, we need to provide on top of the main program so that we can call it inside main. Just make sure that you put it below the include header. So normally in the functions, there are some format, right? You have return types, you have function names, you have a parameter if you have any, either one or many. You can separate by a comma. Just this is the form, right? You can try many code inside. So suppose that I'm going to create a function that we can calculate summation between two numbers given from the parameter, and finally we will display it on screen. Okay. So to do this, you can either create a function as a return function or just a void. Okay. No return type. It depends on whether you want to process the value or not. Okay. So in this case, I'm gonna just put it a void function. You say add to number, okay. Add two numbers, and then we will pass two integer number here. Let's say n1 and n2. Okay, this is parameter. And inside this, we can do something, right? Okay, let's say I have the operation. Let's say result equal to n1 plus n2. So this is depending on the logic, the complexity of your function. Some program you may need to do some logical operation, logical testing, in order to find out some value, as well as to apply some certain formula by using this input value. So in here, just finally we just print it out, just simple. Okay. So the summation is something. Okay, we can pass it out using a placeholder percentage d. Pass it out. Okay. This is very simple function, right? Okay. Each time when we call to this function, we need to give it some parameter, and then it will process this information first. Sum, then display the result. Okay. So let's just say I have I want to call this function. Let's say what is the name? Add two number, right? Okay. Add two number. And then we provide it some parameter, let's say 3 and 5. Okay. So if we run this, the function above will run, right? Okay. It will process the result equal to n1 plus n2. And finally, it displays some information. The summation is something here, right? Okay. So it depending on your demand, whether you want to test the function again and again. Okay, you can do that. Okay, let's say I call it one more time, 7 and 5. So we're gonna get 8 and 12, right? 8 and 12. Okay. 3 plus 5 is 8. 7 plus 5 is 12. Okay. It's because that when we call it again at line 13, this function is executed again, right? So the summation is displayed again. It's because that we don't put new line. That's why our message is continuously displayed. Okay. So just put something here to make it more beautiful. /n. Okay, so now we get the information that is in the two separated lines. Okay. This is called function. We can call it many times, and we can write anything inside here, right? Let's say I want to add some more information. Let's say finding sum of n1 and n2. So let's say you paste the placeholder value, then we new line n1 comma s2. Okay, so n1 will pass here and n2 will be passing here. If we run it one more time, we will get two results, right? Okay, so now it's not running. Okay, this is, you can debug the code. What happened here? There might be something wrong. You can click view, perspective, and delete current. Okay, yes. So in code blocks, you can see the debug message here. There's something wrong, like as you can see, expected semicolon. Okay, so at line 7. So something wrong. Okay, it's because we're missing a semicolon. So be careful when you work with C programming. C++ also we require the semicolon. Okay. Just run it again. This is what we get. Okay, finding summation of 3 and 5. Okay, and then something here. So the result coming out, but it looks not really good, right? It's really messed up. Okay, so let's adjust the message a little bit into the function so that we can see it better. So let's say we display this one, we get enter, and then we display this one. Okay, we get enter. Let's say enter twice, so it means that we have the white space in between, right, when we run the function again. So this is what we get. Okay, the first one is obtained from the line 13 when we call to the function, when we pass two values 3 and 5, and then we got these two output because at line 7 and 8 we print, right? We get this one, and this one when the function is called again at line 14 we obtain this result. Okay, this is how the function works. So it really depending on your code whether you want to design that your function do something and then return result or not. So in here we just print it out. Okay, not store in something. Okay. So one more time, I want to create a function again. Let's say we want to obtain the result. Okay, let's say integer here, some sweet number, for example. Want to sum sweet number. Let's say we have the input which is a number, let's say n. So inside here we can do some operations, some repetition using for loop in order that we can find summation from 1 to n here. Okay, so let's say I have some variable here. Let's say s equal to 0. We start from 0, and then we're gonna loop from 1. Let's say k equal to 1, k less than or equal n. Okay, we wanna loop from 1 to n. Okay. So condition k is less than or equal n, k plus 1. Okay, we want to increase by 1. So inside this we can just put say that we want the s to be incremented by k, right? So s equal to s plus k. So each time the loop run, the variable s keep incremented by k value, right? So first s is 0, and now when it run one time, k equal to 1, 0 plus 1 is 1. Okay, so now variable s has value 1. When the loop run again, k become 2. Okay, k equal to k is 2. So 1 plus 2, right? Because the old s is 1, 1 plus 2 is 3. Keep repeating this process. Finally, we will obtain this summation sweet number. Okay, so you can just return s. So in here we don't print something, we want to return, right? Because we want this value to be calculated in main. Okay, we want to do something here. So in here, let's say I have a variable, let's say as, which means result, or we can just put result. So result equal to, we call to this function which is sum switch, and we will pass a number. Okay. Sum switch, let's say I pass 10. We are sum from 1 to 10, right? So if I run this, there's nothing display when we call to sum switch. This one will display because we have used the printf command, right? Okay. So I just run this. We don't see any more message when we call to sum switch. Okay. Because this function just calculate it works, and then finally return the value to this function. Okay. So now I'm gonna display it out. This is how you can use the function with return value. You can use the value inside main. Okay, you can use this value to check condition. If result is greater than some certain value, you can do some logic depending on you, so that you can control, right? This is how we define the function with returning value. So now I'm gonna check condition something. Just print it out. Print total sum switch is okay plus b plus the result. So just run it again, we will obtain this result, right? Because we printed the value now is inside main, we can display it out. Okay? So in some cases you don't want to display this like that, you can check the condition based on your requirement. For example, if the result is less than 100, you do something. If not, you do something else. Depend on your logic, right? Let's say here I'm gonna display the summation, but if it is greater than hundreds, you can display some other message as you like. Okay? Let's say I want to display bingo, congratulations. Depending on your logic strategies, giving you the example. Congratulations. Okay. So in here, because the summation total value is 55, right? So the first condition here is true. So this code is run at line 31. The other condition will be ignored. So suppose that I change this number into something else. Let's say 100 or 50. Let's say 50. So we know that this variable will store the sum switch, which we already given it inside the function above, right? This is the logic here that we define. So the summation will be more than 100. So this code will not run, it will run this one. So this is how you control the return value inside the main program. Okay, so you just display a congratulations here. Okay, so just to remark you here that this is how you can use these two different types of function. The function with no returning value, you just use void. If it has returning value, you just put it's the data type that will return for you. Okay, so this number you will take and use it inside the main, right? But for this function, you cannot get any value back from the function because you did not return it, right? This is how you use the function. And using the function is very handy and very most often that most developers will use. Because when you develop some program that are more complicated or many features, making your code into smaller piece of code, like grouping them into different functions, are very important, right? Because when you give it a name, you know how you want to process that one, right? The logic is already defined this, so it makes your code smaller and more clear. Okay? You know this is what to do, this is what it's going to do, this is what I'm gonna do. Okay. This is for the function. So I'm gonna come back to the slide. So we'll skip this one. You can review yourself later. So talking about pointer. Okay, so what is pointer? Pointer is used to store the address of the memory. So normally, if you use in the structure, when you have a variable, and then you can access the address of that variable. Okay. So remember that pointer is only store the address, but you can also access the value at that address in the memory. Okay? So we will see how we use that, and there are two symbols that we're going to use: star symbol and ampersand symbol. Okay? So star symbol is used to show the value of pointer, and n symbol used to access to the address of variable. Any variable it has address. So first thing first, when you create a pointer, you may need to use star. Okay, this is just the symbol, just as a grammar that you use, and then later on you can just use the variable name itself. If you use with star, it will display the value at that address. Okay, so I'm going to create a new file. Let's say pointer include stdio.h. Okay, so let's say I have two variables, let's say x and y equal to 10 and y equal to 20. Okay. And then I have a pointer, let's say p1 and p2. This is how you create a pointer, right? You just put the star, it will become pointer. So in here, after we create a pointer, we can access to the address using the n ampersand symbol. You can say just p1 equal to n x. It means that you will take the address of x and put into p1. Okay. Example, you can also keep the value of p2 equal to ampersand y here. Okay. And then you can display the address from p1 because p1 store address, right? So what we use here is percentage x represent the address. Okay. So let's just say pass p1 and p2 here. I'm gonna new line. Okay. And then we run it one more time. So this gives you the address of x and y in the memory. Okay. So how does this work is that each time that you create a pointer, then you can store what value to store in that pointer, which is the address. Okay. So in this case, I'm gonna explain you a little bit more. I'm going to drawing here. So when we say that we declare two variables x and y equal 10 and 20, right? So what it does in the memory, it's gonna make reservation for x and y. So let's say this one is x, and the value of x here is something, right, which is 10. As we can see that from the code, we store x10, and normally it has the address. Okay, when we work in the memory, there is the address for each variable. So let's say it is A, B, and C. Okay, A, B, C. Normally, it is the address is represented using the hexadecimal. Okay, could be from 1 to E, letter E, as you already learned the address hexadecimal number. Okay. And next we have the y variable, right? Y variable which is 20. So I'm gonna make a box here which store the value of y is 20. Okay. And you also have the address inside the memory. Okay. So suppose that the address is at 1, 2, and F. Okay. We don't know what address, but this is just how the compiler will assign it to the variable. Okay. And then when we put p equal to x, it means that we're gonna take the address of x into p1. So p1 here, normally it also has the address, right? So p1, we have the box. At first, when we create pointer, there's nothing inside the box, and then the pointer also has its address. Let's say the address is at 3AC. We don't know what address the compiler will assign to it. So p1 here like this, and then we say in the line 10, right? p1 equal to nx. It means that we take the address of x, put into p1. Okay. So what is address of x? Okay. As you can see from here, this is the address of x, right? That we suppose ABC here. So it means that ABC will store in p1. Okay. Because p1 is the pointer, it stores the address. So if we say p1 equal to nx, it means that the address of x now is stored in p1. Okay. Similarly for the P2, right? As we create P2 and then we access it, we take the address of Y. We use the symbol ampersand. So it will take the address of Y to store in P2. So at line 11 that we write in the code, we will get a P2 box here. The value inside the box is the address of Y. In P2 itself, it also has address. Okay? Let's say address of P2 is something here. 441E. Okay, we don't know which address the compiler will work for that. So the value of address of Y is 1, 2, and F, right? So in here, P2 will store the address of Y. Okay? Because at line 11, we get the value, the address of Y to store in P2. Okay? So from this process, we can know that the pointer has the reference to the address of variable X and variable Y, P1 and P2 here. The way how it works is like this one pointing to this one. Okay? Pointing, okay, pointing. So pointing means that you can access the value inside that address. Okay? So I'm gonna display it out. So if we display P1 and P2, it's just the address that the pointer store right? Because it is X and Y. Okay? And if we display the address of P1 and P2, we can also get that. Just put N. So each variable, if you put N in front of it, it becomes the address, right? We will get access to the address of that variable. So P1 and P2 also have the address, right? So now we access here. As you can see here, these values are different, right? All of these four values are different. The first two values here are referring to address of X and Y, which is stored in P1 and P2. And this last two address is referring to the address of pointer P1 and P2. Okay. So if you want to access to the value that P1 and P2 store, P1 and P2 store the address, right? If you want to know what value exactly that store at this address, so if we take a look at the reference here, it is 10, right? At address ABC, the value is 10. We can do that using the symbol star. Okay, let's say star here. So because it is value, right, I put percentage %d, then new line here, and we can pass star P1. Okay. This will get access to the value at the address that P1 store. P1 store address of something, right? And then we want to get value of that address. This is 10. So inside this case, P1 store address, which is ABC. But if you use star P1 to display, as you can see on line 18, this means that we're trying to access the value at this address. Okay. This address here, referring here, what is the value? It is 10, right? As you can see in the box here. Okay. This is how the pointer works. And we will see this in more detail. There are many different forms of using pointer. When we work on linked list, you will see on how it can be implemented in linked list. We don't use star or ampersand anymore. Okay. We just remember that each variable is the address. If we want to access to the value, we can use the dot symbol. Okay, dot symbol. Because when we define the linked list, we need to define the structure. Okay? The structure head and tail or data inside that element. Okay. So I think that's it for the pointer review.